Hi guys, Rodney Walker here of grant.gov. Get funded with Rodney, and I'm on the Grant community blog. And as we're looking today, I want to focus our attention on a couple of things. We've looked at what is a grant, and we looked at what is a discretionary grant. If you didn't get a chance to see the other videos on this topic, go back and check them out. In this particular video, we're going to be looking at what is a mandatory grant and how it's kind of different from the others that we've talked about so far. So let's take a look at the mandatory grant. And as we look at it, we'll notice that a mandatory grant is a grant that must be awarded to each eligible applicant. And these are generally governmental entities based upon certain conditions that have been set and put in place. So let's break this down and look at this a little clearer, because when we start talking about monies that are mandatory, that anybody who apply is going to be awarded, what does that look like and what does that mean? So if we look at this breakdown, it's a really good breakdown here. As I mentioned in some of the earlier videos, there are bills that are passed, there are laws that are passed, and as these laws are passed from our elected officials, those monies are generally designed to go in to support an effort or to enforce and to help to bring about that law that was appropriated through the government. So with it, these laws typically define the purpose of the grant. They have the minimum eligibilities and qualifications of the grant, and then they often determine the amount. And then they are authorized. They have the authorizing statute. And this basically requires a particular federal governmental agency to administer the grant program. So remember, lawmakers make the laws and then they hand the monies off to be administered by a federal governmental agency. For instance, let's say, for example, we're dealing with the Department of Education. That particular agency handles funding that the government issues down, and they are the entity that most of those grants are coming from related to education. Same way with the Department of Defense and Department of Agriculture and all the others. But for now, let's take a look at this. They administer them. And the fourth thing that we see here is that any entity that applies and they meet the minimum eligibility requirements must be awarded the grant from the federal agency that's administering those grants. So long story short, this grant really differs from the other two that we looked at in that this is money that's being sent down from the government and it's been administered in such a way where everybody who qualifies for it will receive the grant. Big difference from the other ones that were competitive, like the discretionary grant that we looked at a little earlier, and different from the block grant, which is mostly awarded to those top level governmental agencies, as we discussed earlier. Go back and check out the other videos for that. Remember, my friend, I want to see you get funded, and the way you get funded is by learning the information and then applying the information. So go take action, be brave, be bold, be brilliant, and I'll see you next time.